All right. So why don't we start by introducing yourself?
My name is Yitzchak Maya Schwartz. Maya Schwartz is what people call me. And I have a shlichus, a mission that I see Hashem gave me to redeem the world, to change the world to the Geulah consciousness, to make a paradigm shift in the way we see ourselves, and because we don't understand ourselves, we're not enjoying ourselves, we're fighting, and we're living a very, very small and uncomfortable, painful existence. And that's where I see that Hashem gave me the mission to change that.
So when you talk about Geulah consciousness, what does that mean to you exactly?
Geulah consciousness is a few parts. It's one part is understanding ourselves, and I can explain it if we want to go into that right now. I'm not sure if this is the right time.
This is an overview, and then we're gonna go deeper. Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. So as an overview, what it does, the Geulah consciousness becomes very clear that there's one power that is everything, and it makes us understand ourselves as one, so we will operate from that perspective instead of the way we see ourselves now as separate, and that's why we fight. That's one aspect of the Geulah consciousness, and it's in general it puts the Geulah consciousness is going to be so that we're going to be able to control pain and pleasure on a level that we can just decide, just like we're conscious of the color red, we can decide to be conscious of pleasure, and we just control pleasure, because really pleasure is a consciousness, and we just put it to a body because we're confused. It's part of the confusion. So once that will happen, imagine what kind of levels of pleasure where we could control the pain away, and we could just go into pleasure and create new pleasures on top of that. That's really the main goal. The main goal is pleasure. The main goal, according to the Baal Shem Tov, Hashem created this whole movie, this whole interesting thing to create unlimited Tonic Ein Sof. And that can happen when Mashiach is going to come. And that's the Geulah consciousness in an overview.
Cool. So I want to get more into like how we arrive at Geulah consciousness, when Mashiach comes, all of that. But let's just take this back a little bit so the audience can get to know who you are. So I know you're from Williamsburg, but just tell us about the journey that got you from Williamsburg to where you are right now here in Yerushalayim.
It's a big journey, and again, a synopsis only. Basically, I was 10 years, I learned in Kollel. It was very big masmid, really, but at the same time, I questioned. I didn't understand, based on what, why, and so on. And then I went out a little bit to work to do one project, and then I got a little more courage because I was successful, and I made the decision then that no, after 10 years of thinking of reading all books on evolution, biblical archaeology, biblical criticism, and I said no, there's no proof, and how could I decide to base my whole life based on a book that based on what, so on. So, and then a few years later came a point, many years later, 15 years later, I made a decision to actually leave the community. And I was struggling all the years, trying to make it work, but it didn't work. But I left, but 5 years later, basically, a few years, I don't know if it's 5, I realized that the outside world is a scam. It's an Instagram account, a lot of Instagram accounts. and this was like, I didn't have the words for it, because when you have words, it brings it to reality. But I just saw it's a lie. It's like it's where everyone, Instagram, everyone thinks that everyone else, it's true. I'm lying, but everyone else is like.
There's no MS.
Yeah, because it's just a story that everyone portrays, and they don't cap that everyone is doing it, and they're not realizing that they don't have to copy them, because they're only copying me. You know what I mean? It becomes one big, and that's what I realized, that it's not there. And I realized that in the Hasidic life, if I just carve out a little bit, not exactly go, everything exactly, there's so much joy there. I went to a festival, I remember, and I was saying Midbarim here in Israel, and I was saying, where's the love? I don't see love. Everyone's like this, you can't. Then a few weeks later, I was like Kumsitz, and all of a sudden, I don't know the guys, and they're already putting their shoulders on me, like I say, hey, do I know you? But yeah, what do you mean? We're brothers, And it was love. So I said, it made more sense to me, and I liked Shabbos. I liked it. So, anyways, I decided to come back, but I didn't really believe. I just wanted to accept, and I was saying, okay, I'll go on the trip. But then a few years later, I got to understanding through the letters of the English alphabet some of the most amazing things that show me clearly that it's beyond reasonable doubt that the God talked through these letters that are outside of the possible, of the physical possibility, of the normal human possibility to make this, as we'll see.
You're saying it's beyond a reasonable doubt that God talked through these letters
Yeah.
to create. Why is it beyond reasonable doubt?
Because it's letters Q, W, X, and Y. The way these letters are called, the way they are shaped, the way they are used, create a beautiful painting, sort of, but just not a painting, but I mean like an intellectual masterpiece that is impossible logically, from a very straight logical perspective, impossible that this is humans did it. So as we'll see, we'll get to it. So that's why, for me, that's when I said, okay, being that I anyways understand that there is a God, I wouldn't see from this thing, the letters, I would say I don't understand, but create a God for that you can. God is like such an interesting concept that I wouldn't understand how I could come from this to a God, but I understand that God exists, and now I just have to place this particular action to allocate it to which player in this whole scheme. So I see that he's the player that does these kind of things. So I see that he's talking through these letters.
Why specifically QWXY?
Because on these letters, as you'll see, I'll show you amazing stuff that only in these few letters they are. And if you want to go ahead with it,
Yeah, let's go. Let's show
dive
us.
in.
Yeah.
Okay. So it starts. I'll start with the letter W. Letter W is a very interesting letter because it's called W, but it's written to double V.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also pronounced like two V's, because when you have two V's, you say, instead of V, you say V. So it becomes the R, so it's the R sound.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely a V, it's a double V, but you call it W. It's very weird. Now, some might say, well, it happened, got confused. U, V, W, double V, we said it, and it's double V. But then, we get to the letter Q. Letter Q is a very interesting letter as well, because first of all, whenever you want to use the Q, you have to add a U. Like in Boggle, you have a little U there, right? Because you can't use the Q without a U. What kind of letter is that? Like, you want to give me a letter? Give me a letter, how I can use it. Don't give me a letter and I have to add another letter and then I can use it. What kind of weird combination is that, right? That's number one. Number two, finally, okay, I'm listening. The guy's telling me I have a choice. What, then they're going to kick me out of school. So I put in a U. But they tell me, wait, you put in a U, good. But it's going to have the sound of a W. You put a U, I get it, but we're going to make you crazy a little more. We're going to make the sound question, quantity, quality, quick, quaint, quell, what's the W? What's the W? Like, why, how did a W get in here?
In English, at least.
In
I want
English.
to point out. Yes.
Yeah, English. I'm going with the English language.
Yes.
Meaning, that's the language I'm talking about. So, qua, why wa? So, now, here I always say this, billions of people for, I don't know, maybe 1,000 years, I don't know how many years, are slavishly adding the U and calling it wa, and not knowing why. No one knows why. Wikipedia, no one. Not Immanuel Kant, not Albert Einstein, no one knows why. But let's see if we know why.
Okay.
Q is really 2 letters, K and U. English, you don't have, you have just the phonetics. K is K and U is U, so Q. So you really, it's a 2 letters. Really, we don't need that, we don't need such a letter, because connecting letters, that's what words do. Letters are single items, not combinations of letters, because that's the work for words. So it's like a weird thing to take 2 letters and make it as a letter. But okay, we'll see. But it is a K and a U.
You
right?
might say there's also a Y in there. K, U, Y, Y.
U.
Right.
It's U. It's U. K and a U.
Right.
Just to be that.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Q. Now, so we have a K and a U. Now we're told to add another U, right? Because we're adding a U.
Right.
So we're doubling the U. So it's W. So W, how's W pronounced?
W. W. W.
Well,
Right.
so single Q, when it's Q, it's called Q. You add a U, it becomes W, because you doubled the U. So the rule is double the U and call it that way. So it's perfectly logical why, with adding a U, you made the U became Qua. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, I'm following.
Okay, so this shows us that the W becoming a W is very deliberate. It's not by mistake, but really it's supposed to be called W, because here it's W, and that's how we create the W sound. And this didn't happen by chance. This is deliberately put there because we want you to create the W sound, right? You add the U and you create the W sound. Very weird. So now we go back to the first question. Why create such an interesting letter, W? And we now know it's deliberate. And to the extent that there's another letter that we want you to actually do the act of doubling and creating that W sound. So it's very intentional. What's going on? Why? So now, let's go back to the English alphabet and see that English alphabet from A to T is like from Aleph to Tuf. It has less letters from A to T. 2 letters missing because a lot of Hebrew letters are doubles. But from A to T, you have 20 letters in English. Of these 20, 13 are located exactly the same place in the alphabet as the Hebrew letters. So like A is Aleph, B is Bay, C is not, but D you have Dalet, like, and so on. You have K, L, M, N is Kif, Lamed, Mem, Nin, and then you have Q, R, S, T is Kuf, Resh, Shin, Tov. So you have a lot that are in place. So these letters are pretty much alluding to the Hebrew letters. So when you see such a letter, W creates a V. I was thinking, what could it be? So I was looking at it from the Hebrew perspective. W creates a Vav. So I was thinking, wait, double yods, two yods, two dots. Yod is a pintala, a
Yeah.
dot creates a line. That's the whole concept of how a line gets created in geometry, is by that you have one dot, you add another dot, and then the shortest distance becomes the line, the relationship. So that all of a sudden this letter makes sense. As far as in the first step, that there is something where double ya becomes a v. Now we want to understand why would there be such a letter. Now, but the thing is, it actually explains this concept of saying that double ya becomes a v, explains the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Why? Because Yud Kei, the high, and the Vav high, the high is not part of the actual letter, it's how to express it, because when you have a Yud, you say Y, you have to have another letter next to it, Ya, to be able to express it. It's like, that's why the high is called Malchus, some say, because you're able to take the Yud and express it in that. But the letter is Yud and Vav. These are the letters. So it tells us, it opened up to realize that when you see a dot and a line, now we look at the letters, dot and line, right? So when you see a dot and a line, what relationship do you see? What comes to mind? A dot and it was doubled. That's the Yud Vav, the name of Hashem, is this energy, this concept, because this concept is the concept of creation. Because everything in creation happens through the concept where two dots, where each dot doesn't have any dimension, but because you created this other dot, now you have dimension. Because you doubled the same dot, so it's only one dot really, but you're looking at it from a different perspective, and so you create dimension. So that's how everything in the world is created. We think the world says 1 + 1 is 2. It's not true, because the relationship between the two is totally new. That's what always, when you put two things together, you create a relationship, and that is something that's besides the value of the two separate items. And so 1 + 1 is new, not two, because it's always, if you take,
Sum is greater than the parts.
because you have an additional value, so
Yes.
that's gets expressed with a dot and a dot, creating a line. So which means that Yud Vav, when you see a dot and a line, what you're seeing is a dot that doubled itself and became a line. And that's how the W is expressed. One letter that's a W that becomes a Vav. W that becomes a Vav. So it's like how so it explains the concept of Yud Vav. What's Yud Vav? This is the energy, because this is how the whole world is. By adding new pieces that have different relationships, you create houses, you create buildings, and the whole world, it starts with elements with the same things.
So you also said X, Y.
I'm still far
from that.
Far
Okay.
from double, finished with the W.
Okay.
So we have W. Now, so as we were saying that the W, by virtue of it being such an interesting way of expressing a single letter, calling it double U, but pronouncing it Vav, right? It's like giving us the understanding that the of W becomes a Vav, and it tells us about Yud Vav, the name of Hashem, and it shows what the energy is, which no one, as far as I know, knows that the concept of Yud Vav is the dot in the line, that the energy is that from the dot it doubled to become a line, which shows how the world operates, that by doubling a dot you create something new, always adding 1 + 1 is new. And this also gets expressed in the imagery of the W, because the image of the W is two V's, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you put one V and another V together. How many V's do you have?
2.
3, because
The relationship.
The relationship created another V.
Right.
So it's the very concept that W is called Vuv because that is also expressed in the image of the letter. Amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing, mind-blowing. Now, let's go back to the letter Q. The letter Q is the human is adding his Yud to the Yud that's the KU, which K is king, KU is queen, and has the dot inside. What's a queen mean? That she has a dot already inside her, or one, and the human is adding another dot together. That creates the world. That creates the Vav, right?
Right.
So that's why it becomes a Vav. That's why it was important to bring this out by human action. Now it also the image of the Q has that thing where it's a dot inside, a dot outside, together it's a line. So it has that same imagery that we want to create because it's like the queen giving birth, having one dot in, and that's how it creates the line. And the definition of Q. What's a Q? Q-U-E-U-E is going on a line. You have to go on Q,
Right.
which starts. It's a line created of units. Of 2 units, you have a Q. So it's the same concept that from units you create a line. Mm-hmm. So the same idea that we have from the W, which we saw that it shows it through the image, the Q shows it through the definition of the letter. That it's this idea, right? Now, what gets created? From the U and the U, we create the W, right? The W, now, in English, there are some letters that have a definition of their own, like a letter X always means exit, exclaim, export, exhale, everything going out. Actually, the look of it is also, boom, out. That's X. But I also realized the W also has that concept. W is the dominant letter in who, what, when, where, which, how, and why. And all of them have that H, the high. So W is, as we saw very clearly, the name of Hashem. And it's the what, the when, the where, the how, the why, the who of the world, which is basically the essence. Now, there is even a letter, a concept before, when you have a Q, and when you add a U, there's a word called quo or qua. These words mean reality in its totality. Mm-hmm. It means like status quo. It's the situation. Qua is like music. Qua music. The essence of it. It means the reality before it's defined in the what, when, where, how. What,
right.
You know.
It's
so
the
that's
same
like
in French. Quoi, qui, quand.
I don't know French.
It means like what, who, when.
Sag mal, wenn ich das packen, also ich muss aufs Kennen noch inzwischen noch ein Bau. Das müsste überhaupt Rezos,
So what he's basically saying, you understand, that he wants to leave,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have a question on how to continue because of
Should I pause?
Pause.